Importance of doing audio checks. Yeah. Realized that I had my mic muted. So today I wanted to try and mix this up a little bit. So, for example, there's some podcasts out there where they'll have episodes that are kind of on the more serious side, but then they'll also have episodes that are like totally off the rails. And I listened to quite a few of those, and so I wanted to see if I can get in on that. Um, and what a more perfect way than to go over my IT career. The start to my IT career. By the way, for those watching, this is balloons. Can't remember if I said that at the beginning of this or not. I got like 15 minutes into my last recording, and I realized that I didn't have the audio on or my mic. I had my mic muted. Anyway, so here's balloons. TD6, great game. Absolutely love it. Um, so my IT career got off to really kind of a funny start. I had been supporting this call center. It's like sort of IT. It's like a level point 0.5 support. Basically just out helping people on the floor while the actual IT guy, if there was an actual problem, he would fix it for him. So yeah, I was like his go-to. Well, his I did all the work that he didn't want to do. So anyway, that was like my first taste of it, but my first real experience was I I interviewed with this company and I like got accidentally hired. And so the way that that played out was I I had so I had a really bad interview with this company, and it said they were looking for a help desk, but what they were looking for was, at least based on the interview, was something way more advanced than a help desk position. And I was like, I walked out of it being like, oh man, they gave me like this test, and I was only able to, of like 10 questions, I was only able to answer one of them, and the other ones I just kind of wrote like BS answers. um, but I ended up getting a call the next day. Or no, I got an email. I got an email the next day from the hiring manager. Hey, we liked you. You're hired. Come on in. Whatever. This will be your first day, and yada yada yada. And so I was like, oh, great, great. And so the next day, I put in my. I need to buy another sniper. The next day, I put in my 2 week notice with the company that I work for, and that I had worked for at the time. And I was I had been emailing the company that gave me the job offer. I was like, hey, send me the the letter where I can officially accept it. And uh I never got a response from that. And a couple days went by, nothing, and a couple more days went by, and I didn't get response. And I finally got a response saying that they had changed their mind. They're rescinding the offer. It's like, oh, well, that's terrible. Because in 4 days, that's the end of my 2 week notice. And, you know, so I called up the boss. It was a small startup company. So the boss was CEO, and he ended up being like my manager. Well, I reported directly to him, which wasn't really made clear until probably about 60% of my way through working there. It's important to communicate to your employees. Um, so I called him up. I had his number and was like, "Hey, I was told I was going to be given a job. I gave me a 2 week notice already. I was supposed to start next week Monday, and now you guys are rescinding the offer. That's like, you know, not cool on your guys' part." And he was like, "All right, I'll call you back. We'll see what we can do." So he called me back like 3 hours later, and he was like, "All right, you'll start. on Monday, bring this, and we'll have your letter that you can sign when you get here. Like, oh, cool. And so that's how I say I accidentally got hired. And what ended up happening, uh, the the manager that had originally sent me the offer, she got demoted, and the the person that replaced her had looked at all the people that interviewed, and she was actually present in the interview that I was in. And yeah, she was one of the interviewing people, and she did not like me at all. But she ended up replacing her, and that's why my offer got rescinded. Was because this uh, I'm not gonna give out her name, but we'll call her sure. We'll just this hiring manager. She didn't like me at all. It took me a while for her to warm up to me. Um, I thought she was pretty nice. She did have a little bit of an attitude, just spicy boss babe kind of attitude. And there was a little bit of not really headbutting, but just like a "Are you serious?" kind of thing. But sometimes it's best just to not question management. So anyway, that job, what yeah, that was my first real intro. Oh, I should get one of these guys. That was my first like real introduction to IT, and I think that they tried to get me to quit because they I was treated very poorly by all of management, and like I could just tell they just didn't like me. And also my coworkers, not really my I was the only person on my team, um, but all my other coworkers except for one, he was like my mentor. He was super awesome. Uh, love that guy. Calls me brother still. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's a great guy. Um, he actually introduced me to this game. So yeah, that was really hard. But there was a lot of funny stuff that happened there. Yeah, so my mentor, he had taught me how to configure Cisco switches. And if you don't know what a Cisco switch is, it's just it's kind of like a plug a bunch of Ethernet cables into it, and those go to so the internet comes in one port and then goes out the other ports. There's like 48 ports. So he taught me how to configure those. And one day we should do fast firing. One day I was configuring switches and I was doing because they were named like all sorts of weird whatever. So I was renaming all the ports, trying to go and organize it for, whoever comes behind me. They can see, oh, these are all named properly. Unit isn't just some crazy six string number with letters in it. It's actually, like unit 315 is unit 315 in the switch. Makes sense, right? So I was setting all that up, and I had accidentally saved the wrong configuration on the wrong switch. And I had done that with like 4 switches, and that was across 4 different buildings. And so, didn't really think of it, much of it. Went to lunch, came back, and apparently there's like, oh my gosh, we have internet down on all these buildings, and it's terrible. We're getting calls. It's high price. Everybody's like scrambling, and me and the guy who was my mentor, he, I was like, dude, I know exactly what's going on. I saved the wrong configurations. So, it was easy enough. Just went, I had the backup configurations, and yeah, so I sorted those correctly. And, problem was fixed, but it's just funny that I brought down, hey, because we provided internet to a bunch of apartment buildings in the downtown area. And so these are, they're not small units or small buildings. We've probably got 100 plus 100 plus units in these buildings, and people pay good money for those units, and so the expectation of having good internet is there. And so yeah, that was pretty funny. To me, it was anyway. And one other thing that was really goofy that they made me do was I got like this really janky cart, and I had to move a switch. We had just gotten a really fancy switch, a big 48 port switch, and we were going to put it in one of these apartment buildings. And so I had to put this switch that weighed 1,000 pounds, it felt like. But it was heavy, not something I could carry. And I had to take it from where it got delivered and took it like 4 blocks across like bumpy road and all, like thing almost tipping over several times. And yeah, the switch still worked just great. But this very several $1,000 piece of equipment, I was pretty sure I was going to break it by accident. And that's another example of like, maybe I'm just like conspiracy about it a little bit, but it seemed like management put me in situations where I was like bound to fail, and I came out on top, and they were surprised. So, and maybe it's just my skill level at the time just wasn't as high. I don't know. But anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, yeah. So speaking of interviews, it was interviewing for the job that I ended up getting for my last job. They so I had a day full of like okay-ish interviews. They weren't like fantastic, but they were, you know, I felt like I didn't do a terrible job. I had actually just gotten out of this interview. Everybody there liked me. I got interviewed by like 6 people at this one. It was a healthcare company, and there was like, yeah, it was like 6 people. Everyone liked me except for this hiring manager. Which, that's the most important person that I need to have like me. Everybody else thought I was great, hey, like, oh yeah, whatever. And but it was after the interview, she walked me down to the lobby and she just like laid into me about how she doesn't like my personality, how I'm so full of myself, and all this. And it's like, okay. And that kind of like made me really, from interviews from that point on, kind of like made me really self conscious about like, should I be talking myself up as much as I am? Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do in interviews. I don't know. I've always actually been quite terrible at interviews. I don't understand it. I think there was one that I went into where I was just like, I felt totally comfortable and normal. And even then, I got the same feedback. It was weird, of just being like completely full of myself and how I thought I was the best person in the world. And it's like, I guess I don't. Am I supposed to talk positively about myself? I don't know. I know I have a lot to learn. That's a point that I made in every interview. Like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why I didn't get hired. But anyway, so I had just gotten out of this interview and I had just gotten scolded by this hiring manager. And I was like, well, I'm not getting that job. Which they never called me or sent me an email saying that I didn't get the job. And so then I had an interview it was like literally 5 minutes after that interview. I went out to my car and I had a phone interview with this other manager. And he didn't ask me any technical questions. And I was just like, okay, this guy probably saw my LinkedIn and maybe he's just wanting to get like a feel for who I am. And then I'll have like, 2 more interviews. One will be, kind of not as technical, but then, or it will be technical. And then the last one will just be with the team, see how I interact with the team. And really don't have enough for anything? Okay. Um, but I felt like that interview went very poorly, and because he's like, "Oh, like, what do you like to do in your free time?" And so I try to avoid talking about video games in an interview, and he just even asked me, he's like, "Oh, you play video games?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I do actually. I love playing video games." And, I should probably do barb darts here. And, th so, yeah, didn't ask me any technical questions, and I gotta see the upgrades on this. I need yeah, this ballistic missile's awesome. For those wow, 1,000,000 XP? Goodness sakes. For those listening, I'm just going through some stuff on balloons. There's upgrades and stuff. That's what I'm going through. Uh, so yeah, no technical questions. I felt like he didn't really like me. He just had like this not really condescending, but it was just like he seemed bored and like I never made him laugh or anything in the during the interview. And a recruiter had set me up. A temp agency had set me up with having this interview with this guy, and so interview I felt went not that great, and I got home like 20 minutes later, and I the recruiter he had called me, the temp agency guy he had called me, and it's like, oh, so how'd it go? What'd you think? And I told him I think it went terrible and all this. I told him about this, the one hiring manager scolding me, and it's like, oh, well, there's always more people out there. I'm like, yeah, but we've been at this for 2 months, so I don't know. But then well, and this is the other thing too is I had asked the hiring manager, the one that I had the interview with the car with, where he's just asking me non-technical questions, and he's all like, yeah, I asked him what next steps were, and he's like, well, we're still interviewing people, so I think in about 2 weeks you'll hear back from us. And then that was like, all right, like I didn't get the job. Heard that line before. And but sure enough, I got home, had the recruiter talked. I told him it went terrible, and then like an hour and a half later, I get a call from the recruiter, and he's like, "Hey, they want to offer you a job, whatever, whatever. You'd be making this much, and you'll start next week Monday." And at that day, it was Thursday, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." Been looking for a job for 2 months, and I need money, so I took it, and it was paying fairly well. Um, I was making about $15,000 more a year than I was at the job that I had just come from. Uh, so yeah, that was interesting. But I'm terrible at interviews. Let's see. Oh yes, at my first introduction to IT, this is I can just go down stories that I've had of things that I've had. So there were plenty of times I'd be on call, and which every IT support, any IT job, you're going to be on call. If you go into an IT job and you're expecting to not be on call, then you're probably not going to get the job if you tell the manager that. um, but there were several times I would get a call at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we need you to come down to the data center and push a button for us because we can't get the server to come back up and this, that, the other. Or you need to go down there and make sure the light's green because we need to see if it's actually starting or not. And so there'd be times I just go down to the data center, call up the guys, be like, "Yep, light's green." Like, okay, thanks. I'd go home, or I'd get there, and um, they'd say they'd like call me as I'm walking into the data center, saying, "Oh, hey, "Oh, we got the server to respond, so uh, yeah, we don't need you to go down to the data center anymore." And it's like, I lived like 45 minutes away from the data. That was kind of a pain, especially when it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning that I get a call like that. So then I go home, sleep for maybe an hour. I have to get up and go back to work. Oh man. Yeah, goofy stuff like that. Also, we did tape swaps. I should get another boat. Uh, yeah, did tape swaps. And for people that don't know what tape swaps are, basically you have these you have nightly backups that are done on all these like tapes. Like say it's probably about the size of a floppy disk, but take like 6 of them, stack them on top of each other. That's about how thick it was. So we have these tapes. They do nightly backups. We had to swap them out every day before we left for work, so that fresh. Oh, excuse me. So you'd have a fresh. Um, yeah, you'd have fresh tapes, and we're supposed to put them in a certain order. And I can guarantee you that those tapes probably never got put in the right order, and there'd be times where we forgot to put them in. And the company we were doing this for was in India or something like that, and yeah, I need to get these guys leveled up. Full Metal Jacket. Yeah, there we go. Um, but yeah, that was an interesting. I really like being in the data center. It's fun. Um, and something. So I had to do maintenance on servers, and we were a managed service provider, so we offer support to other to companies around town. And we'd get notifications, hey, the server has low disk space, you need to fix that. So we go in, we had this tool that would analyze the space, and more often than not it was just there was a an update, and the extra files just didn't get deleted after the update. But every now and then, and this was for there were quite a few companies that this was discovered on. And we have a in our contract, we're just not supposed to talk about stuff. Um, but there'd be times where you're going through looking for extra stuff, and there's a bunch of videos that had just been uploaded to the server, and those are taking up the majority of the space. They weren't there yesterday, so we reach out to the company and tell them, hey, you have these videos on there. Not sure if they're supposed to be there, but they're there. But the thing about that is that in Windows, you have like the thumbnail view, so you could see what's on some of these thumbnails, and it was adult entertainment. I'll put it that way. Some educational material. And it's just like, oh man, there was, I could probably, over the course of me working there, was probably at least 30 servers that from different companies that had this on them. And there were repeat offenders too, which was also really funny. We weren't, um, we weren't able to, well, we weren't supposed to like click on it to see if it was CP, if you know what I mean. Um, which, not that I would want to see that because I wouldn't, but I I feel like there might have been a network that we were kind of we had our toes dipped in, and we were facilitating that to some degree, which kind of bothered me. But obviously, if like I see a thumbnail with someone getting plowed on it, that's it's like, all right, I know what that is, and I don't really investigate further. I'm not the FBI. Uh, so yeah, surprising amount of servers have that on them. Um, Something else that's funny that would happen would be so it didn't happen at that job, but at my last job, there were times I'd have to do um, password resets, and or like someone would, you're not supposed to tell the IT person your password. If you tell, just don't tell people your password. Um, but there'd be users I'd be helping, and there's one in particular that really sticks out. But we're going through signing all her stuff, and she's telling me what her password is as she types it, and she had backspaces. She had backspaces in her password, and there were a couple times she had me type it in, and she. What was weird is that because the password, it has like the little the dots to like obfuscate. Is that the right word? Um, obfuscate the what you're typing in. And she'd be like, I notice you're not putting the backspace in. It's like, not really. I mean, it's necessary, but at the same time, it's like, I'm just going to skip the last two letters that you told me. It'll be like 1, 2, 3, backspace, backspace, ABC, backspace. It's like those backspaces, they're just hurting you. And they don't count towards that 16 character limit that you need. It's so funny. And people, it I didn't really. So I went through cybersecurity training, and I actually have a certification in cybersecurity, and it was funny. It's just, well, it's weird to me that people's passwords get leaked all the time, so often, and I didn't really realize how prevalent that is, especially among like the higher ups in the company, until I had worked at this company, and they there was one particular executive, I'm not going to name them, and I never named them. I thought it was really funny, and I had advised the user to not do this, but they saved not only their work username and passwords, but also their personal like account numbers, account names, emails, passwords, yeah, all that stuff, all their username and pass sensitive information. They had saved these as I get I can get that. They had saved them as public contacts in Outlook, so anybody in the company would be able to see this. This person's fairly high up in the company, like you know, very up there. Um, Not a whole lot of distance between them and the CEO. And I told them that, well, I recommended that they change where they store their passwords, and she was all, well, this is just easier for me. And I'm like, well, it's easier for you until some bad actor discovers this and drains your bank account. Like, uh, pick your battles, I guess. Gosh, that was so ridiculous. I told that story all throughout me ever since. So funny. People, whenever passwords would come up and people having just, they like, you get the people that have like sticky notes on Windows. Uh, they'd put username, password right there on the desktop for all their systems, and a lot of people had, like I'd remote into somebody and I have like American Express, account number this, password this, email this. It's like, oh gosh, are you serious? Oh man, and like that stuff's actually with the um with the right credentials, it's very easy to access information like that. I was interviewed by the FBI and they made sure I'm a trustworthy person, and I am. So I was aware that this information existed and I had the potential to do a lot of damage with the information that I knew, but I like not going to jail. So Seen a lot of crazy stuff in that regard. Jeez. And speaking of passwords, I guess this is more so in the support for like call center people. I get my guy, this guy right here. Yeah, this is awesome. And there we go. Um, so you'd get these call center users that just like always have a problem with something. Like they have to change their password every Monday, and I think they were abusing that because they knew that. Well, and I think this is part of the reason why calls were so high on Mondays, because people wanted to waste time by getting their password changed. That problem actually just got right. All right, sorry about that. Allergies or something. So what was I talking about? Passwords, user. Oh yeah, users. Just having weird, lame excuses. You get users that change their password every Monday, or they have their account unlocked. Like they call and be like, "Oh, well, I don't want my password to change because I just changed it," and I noticed that they changed it like a month ago. Like I can see when you changed it. Um, but yeah, they get people that just waste time, and you'd get the super funny ones like there was this one. This actually happened a couple times. People complaining where they're working, and then all of a sudden their monitors just fall over, and it breaks everything. Their keyboard's broken, their mouse is broken, their computer's like, oh my gosh, we have to replace everything they have because their monitors fell off their table. And we can't be like, yeah. I mean, there's like the common sense of it, like it doesn't really happen, but we're supposed to take the users, you know, customer is always right, which we had a saying, customer is always lying. Um, and man, it'd be really funny when like you'd have those users that are like known for doing what they're doing, and so we'd like remote to them and be like, hey, put your password in, whatever. But they wouldn't know that we're remoted to them. Like, put your password in, your username in, whatever, whatever, and be like, oh yeah, I tried that, and it's not working. But on their computer, they would have up like a YouTube video, and they'd be watching YouTube, or they'd be playing Solitaire or Minesweeper or something. And it's funny that they didn't realize, because then we'd screenshot that, send it to their supervisor, and then that person would subsequently get fired, unfortunately. Um, but hey, you can't cake your bake your cake, eat your cake, eat it too. I don't know, something like that. Um, which anyway, stupid excuses. Also, I had this one lady. She had called in a high price. She can't get into her computer. It's awful. Can't get into her computer. She was really nasty to the help desk person, and so then I got in and So I called her up, and I could tell that she was driving. Like you can tell when someone's in the car, and especially when you have like you're speaking to the car system and not on the physical phone, you can totally tell. And so yeah, called her up, and I could tell she was driving, and she had been complaining that she couldn't get her desktop computer to turn on. And so I just run through the troubleshooting steps. Like, all right, make sure it's plugged into the wall. And there'd be like a little bit of a pause. Yep, it's plugged in. Okay, push the button. Like all these troubleshooting steps that would require you to be in front of a computer at a desk, and she's out driving. And I had put that in the notes. It like sounded like the user was driving, but this happened. So The amount of effort that people put into not doing their job, if they just did their job, absolutely amazing how much productivity how much money the company would actually save by not hiring a bunch of people that just don't care. Um, Actually, at the first place where I did like sort of IT, where I was on the floor, um, hold on just a second. I think it's just allergies, man. Like me talking, it's dry, and I don't know. Sorry about that. Keep taking breaks. Um, so yeah, people lying about being at home. um, like there'd be people, like, oh, hi, Pry, like, I can't log into all my things and whatever. I need help because I have to do my job. And so I call that person up, and it's like 5 minutes after they got off the phone with these help desk people, and put them there. And so yeah, then I'd call them up, and they're like, "Oh, I'm on my way to Walmart. Can I call you? Can you call me back in like 30 minutes?" It's like, bro, you called in with a high pry because you can't log into your stuff, and then you decided to peace out to Walmart. What? Like, you don't think I'm gonna tell your supervisor about that? You're wasting everybody's time. So, all right. Anyway, but let's move on to. I have inappropriate conversations written down. So the teammates that I had, I liked my teammates. They were a little loud sometimes, and this is an example. So I would have a support ticket, and I would need to call this person, or I had. Well, anyway, I'd have to call this person, and it was a female, and trying to help them out, do the things. And meanwhile, my teammates talking very loudly, talking about women and the curves and features that they have. And meanwhile, I know that the person I'm on the phone with, which is also female, can overhear all this. So I'm on the phone with this woman, and she overhears a bunch of men talking about women very inappropriately. And there was never anything that was really no repercussions that ever came from that. Which and by any repercussions, I mean like and even like me complaining that my teammates are being too loud when I'm trying to help someone on the phone, that never got rectified by my supervisor. If you're watching this, um, I'm not salty about it. It's just, it was frustrating because I try and be professional, and that I felt that that was highly unprofessional. And not that I mean, we were probably the least professional department. Very laid back. That's what I liked. It was just a laid back, good place to work. It fits my vibe very well. Like we had an Xbox, a TV, um, we had a mini golf little putter thingy. Um, Great. But so one of the times that I was on the phone, and this conversation was going on, um, I my teammates, they like left for lunch or something, so I'm there still helping the user, and then we were wrapping up, and I was just like, hey, I'm sure you overheard this in the background. I'm sorry. I'm kind of in a shared space, and sometimes not everybody's always aware of this, that, the other. And she, she responded, she's like, "Oh, it's fine. I'm used to that," because she's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm used to that. Heard it all the time when we were in the office together." I was like, "Wait a minute. Oh, she's familiar with these people. The one teammate in particular, really knowledgeable guy." But he had been there since like forever, and he was kind of known for certain things. And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine, whatever." So I don't know. Maybe that's why nothing really ever came of it because people just didn't care. Um, which looking back, I think I might have cared a little too much about my job. And there were times where I had to step back and be like, I care, but I need to care less, and because it's just bringing too much stress into my life. And along the same lines of, oh wow, I didn't realize that guy shoots in a line like that. That's cool. Kind of want to. Can I move him? Can't. Oh, if I get the helicopter, I can move him there. I'll do that. So I have to get the Chinook. That'll be a perfect time because there's powerful guys at that time. Anyway, so along the lines of inappropriateness, there was a time. It was before everybody got sent home for C-19. Um, I had a cart and I was moving a bunch of equipment. I had like monitors and keyboards, all that nonsense on there, and I was on the the top floor. We had three floors. We had ground floor, first floor, and a second floor. Um, but it was three floors. But anyway, so I was coming from the second floor, and the I stopped. Yeah, I had my cart. I was on the elevator. Come down, stop on the first floor, and these two girls get in, and they're, you know, I'm thinking to myself, oh, not too bad looking. And door shuts, and immediately they start like saying, one of them said to me, "Well, I'll ride your cart any day." I was like, oh, goodness. I mean, I appreciate you being as upfront. I like a woman being upfront about stuff like that. Um, but I was like, wow, that was kind of inappropriate, but whatever. And then the other one, she just like gets really close to me and she starts like feeling up my leg and on my side. I'm like, oh gosh, this is like, I was just like in shock because it's not that I didn't feel like I was, threatened or anything, but at the same time, it's like, put that on the other foot. Or if it was two guys that came into an elevator and then there was this one girl, like it'd be, that'd make the news kind of thing. So there's definitely a double standard there. And what's interesting is that everybody I've told this story to, and I didn't know these two girls. I don't ever remember seeing them. Um, but everybody that I've told this story to, they just laugh at me. And it's like, sure, there is the whole like, I wasn't like terribly bothered by it, but at the same time, it's like, I still think it's not appropriate behavior for the workplace. Um, and I mean, if they asked first, then anyway, um, but everybody just laughs at it, and they like don't take it serious at all. It's like this stuff happens to guys too, not just to women. And I think it happens more often to women, but and that's the thing. It might not. It might happen equally or even more to men. I don't know. It's just men. We just know that nobody really takes it seriously or will care, so we don't. Um, But anyway, I had ended up, this was like a year and a half later. I had met this girl on a dating app, and she's just really nice, really pretty. And so we went out to ice cream and we got talking, and it's like, oh, what do you do? I'm in IT. What do you do? Oh, I'm in call center, whatever. Well, she wasn't in call center. She did like data processing stuff. Sits in front of a computer and puts numbers in all day. Not something I could do. Oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. Dang it. Okay, we'll just do that then. Um, she, yeah. So anyway, I ended up telling her. We talked more and more about the company that I work for, and then she's like, "Oh, hey, do you work at such and such company?" I was like, "Yeah, I do actually." And she just like face palmed. She's like, I work there too." And I'm like, well, do you come into the office at all? No, I haven't been in the office since they sent us all home. I'm like, ah, well, that's perfectly fine then. Like, no big deal about, say this doesn't work out. You don't have to like see me every day, kind of thing. Because that's awkward. I've been in that situation, and that is awkward. Um, yeah, let's get these bigger guys. But I had told her about this story, and she's like, oh, describe what these two girls look like to me. And so I described, and she's like, oh, they were on the second floor. No, they're on the first floor. She's like, oh, I think I know who they were. And so she pulled up her Facebook, and sure enough, it was these two girls. They were both sisters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's them. And she just laughed. She thought it was hilarious, and I'm like, okay. And I told her, I was like, all right, let's put you in this situation. You get felt up by a guy, and the other one's like talking dirty to you. How would that make you feel? And she was all like, well, I would probably tell someone about it. I'm like I'm telling you about it. And it's like, yeah, but someone would actually care. I'm like, that's my point. That's my point. Um, gosh. Anyway, so goofy. How I don't know. It still kind of doesn't sit right with me, but that's how our society is. Unfortunately, I think it's something that should change, but it might not for quite some time, if it ever does. Because to be fair, throughout history, you know, it has generally been men not on the receiving end of that, and if they are on the receiving end of it, they're in prison or something. Which also, it's anyway. Yeah, lots of funny stuff. I have tons of stories, a lot that I haven't really even covered. Um, Probably should have wrote down more here, but um, gosh, can I think of something else? So there were time. So I guess this is more so the inner work. Oh, I really can't go into a whole lot, but it kind of blows my mind how much money the company wastes. And so, for example, when I was first hired at this company, I was brought on as a contractor. We were switching from Windows 10 or from Windows 7 to Windows 10, and we were giving everybody brand new computers. These brand new computers. And so I spent the first 9 months of me being there finishing up this project. And what was really funny about all of this is because it was like right after we finished that project, uh, probably 2 weeks later, something like that, we sent everybody home because C19. And then we switched everybody over to these thin clients so that they could get on for virtual for Citrix. Um, and you know, I basically just undid everything I had just done, and that whole thing was a complete cluster. Um, but I was job security, right? Um, so we finally got everybody on the system. Fast forward 2 years later, and this is right before I left the company. We were switching everybody back over to a full Windows device, and they weren't going to be thin clients anymore. So it's like I undid everything I was there for, and then before I left, I ended up doing exactly what I had originally got hired there for, all over again. Man, I think it's crazy that companies, and granted, there's some other stuff that you know goes into it too, with just the way contracts worked out and stuff like that. But it's just like I can't believe companies waste, and I had seen it a little bit at the company that I had previously worked at before that. Uh, they they just they make bad decisions when it comes to spending money, and that's one thing I've with me starting my business. There are things I do have to pay for, and I want to make sure that if my company is going to be spending on money on something, it's going to be sensible, and that it's not gonna I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, and then 2 months down the road, oh, guess I shouldn't have done that. Then I have to spend more money because both of these companies that I've worked for, these IT companies I've worked for, well, the one's an IT company, the one's just a big corporation. But both of these companies, it seems like they're just flushing money down the toilet. And yeah, things like there were it was actually, I don't know if I can, I don't know. I'm not saying the company name, and I'm not really going into too much detail, but there was talk of us sending users, uh, they would have two computers and they would have a KVM switch. KVM switch, for those that don't know, you have two different sources of input. So you have like one computer, another computer, computer A, computer B. Plug them into this KVM switch, push a button, you can switch in between either one, and that'll show up on the screen. So if you have two screens, plug those two screens into the back of the KVM switch, and then you can switch what screens you use. Super cool. But we were talking about sending that out. Meanwhile, the company is doing they're making, they're letting people go. They're not, nobody can go on a trip anymore. And like really only essential money. They're not giving raises due to inflation, all this, all this stuff. Meanwhile, they're spending all this stupid extra money on this, like, I can't believe that we are considering this. Like, and what's really funny, and I predicted this before I left, was that in a year or two, they're gonna end up going back to thin clients, and it really wouldn't surprise me. Well, once they get everybody moved over, they're gonna move them right back to thin client for whatever reason. I should keep in contact uh with people there just to see if that's actually the case. That's gonna be so funny if that comes true. Um, see, can I buy? Oh, yes, I am now needing that. And honestly, I should be upgrading these snipers too, because they can really help me out. Get that guy going. Um, yeah, companies wasting money, just silly things, users. I've had a really interesting IT career. I tried getting into cybersecurity, and unfortunately, things just didn't work out. Um, I think that's a really good my experience of trying to get into cybersecurity can prove, and I wouldn't necessarily say it was my fault that it didn't work out. But anyway, it's a really good example of how you can do everything right and still fail. Um, I I went and got my Security Plus certification. I did all these training courses. Yeah, I was taking on more the security side of stuff at work. I had done uh, side by sides. I had done team shadows. I did all the things. Became really good friends with one of the hiring managers there that's on the cybersecurity team, and the people that were, well, the particular cybersecurity team. There's different sections of cybersecurity. Excuse me. So, yeah, I did all the stuff, and it it's unfortunate that it didn't work out. I think I would have enjoyed it I eventually wanted to get into pen testing because I had done a little bit of that before. I have a Flipper Zero, which is super cool, and I actually, well, anyway, um, I have the key fob for my car, key fob to get into my apartment building. I have all those put on it. I have one of my cards, credit card, put on it, so I can take it, push a button, go up to the sensor on the little paypad thing, and I can use that instead of my physical actual card. Just use that. And these things are actually banned on Amazon, I think, because they're seen as like a hacking device or which it is. Um, but ooh, what should I get here? We will upgrade him to a laser cannon. Um, man, that spread is just terrible. Um, so yeah, it's banned on Amazon. The thing was like 200 or 300 bucks. I really haven't used it as much as I want to. Part of it is me having not been in cybersecurity, so I don't get to put this stuff into practice. I can test it on myself and all whatever, but I don't actually get to use. I don't get to use it in a real world setting, like doing pen testing, because that's eventually what I wanted to get into. Um, yeah, I guess it's kind of unfortunate how that all played out, but in the end, I don't think it. I still need to. Sorry, me doing this YouTube stuff, and I also sell some merch. Link for that. I'll put the link for that in the description. I really haven't gotten a whole lot of sales on that, unfortunately, but you know, go buy some. It's cool. Company I have, Ultra Plus Unlimited. I just kind of use that as like a not really umbrella company, but I do a lot of stuff with just kind of put it on the company name. Uh, so all the money that you're paying for this, it goes to that, and then I'm a contractor for my own company. So the money that you give me does eventually come to me, and taxes get paid on it and all that stuff. So don't worry, you're not you're not giving me money to, well, if you decide to give me money. I don't expect money. That's the other thing too. Like I would like to have it, from building an audience. Um, but it's not something that like I've seen videos of these e-girls that are out there like, oh, all it is $5. If you can afford to watch me every day, you can give me $5. And it's like, no, like I don't the only expectation I have for money would be for people to give it to me out of the goodness of their heart. Um, like I don't deserve anybody's money. And even if I feel like I've quote unquote earned it, um, no, it's not that. I feel like it's comparable to a donation, but it's more so an official not donation. I don't know. It's appreciated. My Patreon link is also in the description. It's $5. I don't expect to ever raise that or put another tier. I can put multiple tiers on there. I might do one more, like I'll do like $6 and you get some access to like raw footage or something. Um, but really, I don't want to have like you got the $5, the $10, and then the $50 tier, and you have all these crazy perks and whatever. I'm not really into that. Um, I don't see myself as like greedy. I guess the money that I want in life is just to be able to help myself and my family. Um, I don't need to be like, gosh, if I had like $20 million or something, I don't even know what I would do with that money. I would probably. Even if I had like $100,000, I would, I'd pay off debt and then, put some into savings and invest some, and then the rest that I could, I would give to family. Because I don't feel like I need all this crazy amount of money, although it is appreciated. Um, well, I think this game, I got 5 rounds left on this game. Usually the last two are the ones that are going to get me. At least on the harder difficulties. There's these, they're like the death balloons. They're the black ones. The big, like, black, metallic looking ones. And they just move, like, super fast, and then they pop into a whole bunch of other balloons, and those balloons move super fast, so if you don't have... There we go, that full auto. That, like, super helps. Set him as first. Yeah. And again, I don't want these to be like Let's Plays, it's more just, yeah, let's hang out. I come talk to you, and in the future I'll have a audience to interact with. Be great. Well, it's been... I have had to take a break a couple times, but it's been just over an hour. Like I said, I appreciate anything you're willing to give me. Um, Not necessary, but definitely greatly appreciated. Patreon links in the description. Link to my store is also in the description. And yeah, thanks for coming out. Later.